Jethro allowed to sacrifice to God? This is the question that we seek to answer today as we continue our verse-by-verse study of the book of Exodus on walking through the Bible.
His word, the glory of his cross.
If you have a Bible with you, you can turn to Exodus chapter 18. We're going to be reading from verses 7 to 12. If you don't have a Bible, don't worry. Just follow along with us on the screen. The version that we'll be reading from is the New King James Version. So, Exodus chapter 18, beginning at verse 7. So Moses went out to meet his father-in-law, bowed down and kissed him. And they asked each other about their well-being. And they went into the tent. And Moses told his father-in-law all the Lord had done to Pharaoh and to the Egyptians for Israel's sake, all the hardship that had come upon them on the way, and how the Lord had delivered them. Then Jethro rejoiced for all the good which the Lord had done for Israel, whom he had delivered out of the hand of the Egyptians. And Jethro said, Blessed be the Lord, who has delivered you out of the hand of the Egyptians, and out of the hand of Pharaoh, and who has delivered the people from under the hand of the Egyptians. Now I know that the Lord is greater than all the gods, for in the very thing in which they behaved proudly, he was above them. Then Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, took a burnt offering and other sacrifices to offer to God. And Aaron came with all the elders of Israel to eat bread with Moses' father-in-law before God. In this chapter, we find that the children of Israel are still camped at Rephidim. Jethro, hearing what God had done for Moses and for Israel, wants to come and visit him. He also wants Moses to be reunited with his wife, Zipporah, as well as his two sons, Gershom and Eliezer, all of whom stayed behind while Moses and Aaron went to Egypt. In today's reading, we have the actual meeting. When Moses went out to meet Jethro, he bowed down and kissed him. Moses was not worshiping Jethro here. This was a greeting of respect for someone who was not only his father-in-law, and thus deserving of respect, but that he was also a priest. We discussed back in chapter 2 that although idolatry had spread through much of the world, that doesn't mean that everyone served idols. From Jethro's actions in this chapter, we can be fairly certain that if Jethro served false gods when Moses first arrived some 40 years earlier, he didn't when Moses left for Egypt, because he knew of Jehovah. Moses relayed to Jethro all that had happened before. He would have recalled all the plagues that God did to Egypt, including the last plague in killing the firstborn son. He would have recalled how when Israel was trapped by the Egyptians on the eastern edge of the wilderness of the Red Sea, that God parted the waters of the Red Sea, allowing the children of Israel to cross on dry land. He then brought the waters down on the Egyptians, killing Pharaoh's army. Moses would have recalled how when the children of Israel twice had no water, God provided them water, once by placing a tree into the bitter water, making it sweet, and once by striking Moses' rod against the rock, calling forth water. Moses would have recalled how God miraculously provided Israel with manna and quail each day. And finally, Moses would have recalled how Israel defeated the Amalekites with the Lord as their banner. All of Moses' recollections caused Jethro to rejoice for all of the good that Jehovah had done for Israel. It also caused Jethro to realize one thing, that Jehovah is greater than all the gods of all the peoples. Why? Because people proudly claimed that these other gods could do things like what Moses had described, but they couldn't actually do them because they were carved from gold, silver, or wood. However, Jehovah actually did perform all those things, showing himself to be the true God of this universe. Having glorified the name of God, Jethro, being a priest, took a burnt offering and other sacrifices to offer to the Lord. But Jethro wasn't of the family of Aaron. How then did God accept these sacrifices from Jethro? For that, we need to realize two things. Number one, the law of Moses hadn't been given yet, so there wasn't any Levitical priests. Sure, the law was about to be given, but it hadn't been given yet. We're still in the patriarchal age, where heads of families offered sacrifices to God. God would thus accept the sacrifices of those who worship him in faith, just like Abel did in chapter 4. But here's another thing we need to realize. Only the children of Israel were under the covenant that God would make with the children of Israel at Mount Sinai. If you were from the house of Israel, then only priests from the house of Aaron could offer the sacrifices according to the law. That is an important point that the Hebrew writer makes in Hebrews 7:11-19 concerning the priesthood of Jesus. For Jesus is a high priest, yet not from the tribe of Levi. He was from the tribe of Judah, signifying a change from the law of Moses to the law of Christ. Those who were not of the children of Israel were never under the law of Moses, though. So until Christ came, if they did worship God, which Romans 1 says that almost nobody did, Then they would worship them under the law given to the patriarchs and would offer burnt offerings similar to how Jethro did here. So just because Jethro wasn't of the children of Aaron didn't mean that he did wrong by sacrificing to God. After Jethro had offered this sacrifice, we're told that Aaron and all the elders of Israel came to eat bread with Jethro before God, showing the fellowship that they had with each other. With that, our time is up for today. Lord willing, we hope you'll join us for tomorrow's discussion of Exodus 18, verses 13 to 16, as we continue our walk through the Bible, one verse at a time.
I'm not ashamed.
Thank you for watching today's episode. We hope that you found it edifying and ask that you not only subscribe to our channel and podcast, but that you like and share this episode among your friends, so that the saving gospel of Jesus Christ can go out to the whole world.
Of his cross.